Hey, welcome back to the Big Board. So we're having a look at White Tribe, Rhodesia, 66 to 1980. Interesting little system from White Dog Publishing. And it's a solitaire game, which is nice, and it's on a conflict that is really not being covered. It's obviously would be a very difficult game to cover at perhaps most other scales, unless it was tactical, because of the complex weaving of political factions and things like that. The game reminds me, obviously in a solitaire fashion, but reminds me of Angola from Multiman Publishing, in that you're dealing with a lot of external forces trying to bring issues and difficulties and factors to bear upon the country that is now called something else, but Rhodesia, now it's now called Zimbabwe. And so it really has a lot going on here from I would call it roughly historical narrative, right? So as a solitaire game, it plays fairly straightforward. It feels to me like a nice game of whack-a-mole. You're going to have these there's two different factions. There's Zapu and I forget what the other guy's called, Zanu. Factions. I'm gonna have to apologize for the lighting here. Just we've got dappled sunlight and not enough lighting in the house to fix that. So that's a bad guy. They will turn up randomly in these different zones inside Rhodesia, and they come as part of one of the very first things you do at the beginning of each turn is you roll on the Rhodesian Herald table, which is going to be a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events. And each of those events, done sequentially, will force certain things to happen. It may raise the terror level here up. It may increase the popularity of the Rhodesian Front, of the current elected or powers that be, and or it may influence policies, or it may affect Botswana or Zambia or whatever, and cause conflict in here, right? It'll force units to be placed. Now, the thing about solitaire games that I love is, where are my choices? How do I influence the game? How do I obviously want to create a narrative, obviously want to understand the story the designer is trying to share and to tell us about particular historical events or events, but I want to make meaningful choices about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, things of that nature. And that's where, for instance, with this game, I haven't finished, and I'm probably not going to. I appreciate this game being sent to me and all that for free, but it's really not my cup of tea because there's just not enough choices to make. The only choices you really get to make are how to spend the money that you receive each turn, which will be allocated to buying forces or buying popularity, and in some ways trying to then drive down some other policy actions that you can spend money on. And then you choose which of the bad guys that pop up in the whack-a-mole style to try and attack, and that's it. Most of these forces, in fact, that are placed early in the game at the very least, often don't make it past what's called the handshake, which is the agreement of the locals to allow the rebels to be active as they try to enter from Botswana or Zambia or wherever they're coming from. And so while the game absolutely captures all of the historical context and all of the historical events and puts you in the place of the leader trying to eke out a result that means that Mugabe, doesn't become the president of Zimbabwe and run his version of atrocities that, were arguably better than what the whites were doing to the blacks and the tribes in the former country of Rhodesia. So, there's a lot of conversation around what happened and when, and the external forces of the UK and the USA and South Africa and Portugal all having vested interests in one side or the other and turning the blind eye to conquerors and evil and all that sort of stuff. And this game captures all that fabulously, right? What it doesn't give you is a whole lot of meaningful things to do with the game. And the way the rules are kind of laid out, and I'm literally just going from page to page, executing the actions, rolling a die for some of them, and then flip the page and go to the next activity, and then flip the page and go to the next activity. And then I'll look at the map and go, oh, now it's my chance to influence a policy, or decide if I'm going to apply a policy or not, or buy some soldiers. And that's the one choice or two choices I get. And I go back to the book and I'm flipping through, executing all the things for the AI. So I'm an AI bot now. And it's just really not interesting. It's been on my table for a week and I've played, 3 turns. So it's just a little tedious. Now, I know what happened. I've read a little bit about Rhodesia. I've been to Victoria Falls back when it actually had just become Zimbabwe, and been there, seen that, done that. Obviously didn't go into the cities or Fort Victoria or Aguelo or whatever, any of those areas, Mount Darwin, any of those places, right? Really stayed up around this area in the Victoria Falls. The game is probably great. Yeah, I'll say that. Okay, it's probably great. I'm not a fan of the map. It's difficult to sort of catch data. It's just artistically unattractive to me. And there's so many different fonts going on and dice all over the place, icons of dice for the various roles you have to achieve, all this sort of stuff. It's just a messy, uncomfortable, icky, nasty looking map. I don't like it at all. The counters are fine. This solitaire tracker over here, the board, this board over here, it's got all the policies on it, and then the population, and then other bits and pieces, and these results, House of Assembly results. Elections are kind of goofy. I don't really understand how they work properly, and don't really care. So it's an okay solitaire game. I think if you want to play a solitaire game and you love creating your own narrative and you want to see what happened here historically and play whack-a-mole, this is a game for you, not a game for me. A friend of mine has already agreed to take possession of it from me. I will be passing it on. Since it was given to me for free, I will pass it on for free, and maybe they will play this game and obviously take a much more nuanced and sophisticated look at it and appreciate the fine detail that's here that I have grossly overlooked or undervalued in the snippy little effort that I've put in to date. But 3 turns is not enough to give a rating on a game. All I can tell you is the game is not interesting enough for me to continue with in its current format and state and the way that the game is playing. So, quick little look at it. Hope you guys enjoyed the overview. It hasn't got, there's not a lot of rules in this thing. It's like 12 pages or less, maybe 10. What is this? There are no page numbers, so I can't tell you. Well, there you go. Well, there must be page numbers because there's an index. Oh, yeah, here it is at the very end. Page 15, including designer notes. So there you have it. All right. All the very best. Ciao.